Hi and welcome to Gemini season. It starts in 1 hour. So we are leaving Taurus and we're coming in to Gemini. What we would love everybody to do is to learn foundation astrology as a way to enrich the archetypes and the gates, because it's really helpful to know if a gate is in a feminine or masculine sign, if it's mutable or cardinal or fixed. Also super, super helpful to know the element from an astrological standpoint, which is going to be different from the elements of the I Ching for each gate. So this is something that we do in the setup, which is a bundle, or if you're in an inner circle. We could say that what we are doing is that we are teaching human design, but we are enriching the archetypes with the gene key language and the understanding of the frequency bands of the gate. We are also using Richard's understanding of the planets, and then we are using astrology to be more accurate, even more detailed about each and every gate. So there's not some kind of guessing going on, but we are always respecting the circuitry. We're respecting what center it's in. We're respecting the things that I just mentioned from astrology. So that's where it becomes even more solid and accurate when we understand the bigger map. Robert Rahu, the founder of human design, he didn't know astrology before he got the voice. And then he started to put 1 + 1 together, and that's when he even started to speak about in the line companion about exaltation and the detriment of different lines with different planets. That's why instead of doing a big overview of the 20, I want us to feel into all of them. Then at the end of the presentation, we're going to zoom back into the 20, and that will be the main gate for today's conversation. But I want us to have that overview that is 100% relevant for the 20, but it's also relevant for all the other gates that are in this part of the wheel. Now in the free course, Walking the Wheel, we're 600 people. So 600 people are committing to walking the wheel with Unlock Your Design, weaving human design, astrology, and the gene keys, understanding the gates from these different systems. So welcome to Gemini season. This is the third sign in the astrological year. And what I just said before is that our method is to walk the wheel. So we are walking the wheel through the hexagrams of the I Ching, which is also the gene keys and the gates and the archetypes. And we're also looking at where are we in the astrological wheel. So whenever we are in a hexagram, it's also going to correspond to a zodiac sign. And we are now looking at, like I said, the third sign in the wheel, which also is going to correspond to the third house, and the ruler here is Mercury. This little piece of the cake is where we will be for the next month. So here you can see the different archetypes, and actually right now we are in 8.6, and that very last line is in Gemini. If we want to be really accurate, it should definitely be here too. So we have the tranquil, the enthusiast, the heroine, the goodwill, the prophet, and the wild woman, which is also on the cusp. So the wild woman, if we look at the wheel again, it's going to be right here. So we have the 8 right here, and it's just very, very last part. And then for the 15, it's more on both sides, the Gemini and the Cancer. So here we have the wheel. Some of you might be a little bit new to the astrology. The thing that I would like you to do is to have this bi-wheel. I love it. This is genetic matrix, and that you look what you have in Gemini. So if you have this HD natal astro chart from genetic matrix, you're going to be able to see in each and every sign what are the activations that you have. And you're going to see red for the prenatal or the design activations, and then it's black for the natal activations. And it's so helpful to see it this way, to have everything in the same chart. So in this case, there is only, I think this is my chart actually. So I only have Mercury in Gemini. That's why I like to be versatile and speak many languages. That's what I want you to see, what you have, because we're going to speak about those archetypes. So this is what I just spoke about. You can do the 12 setup series courses if you want to. It has everything that you need to know about each sign. But right now, let's just focus on what we are walking into in an hour during this call. So we are walking into Gemini. The polarity is masculine. The modality is mutable, changeable. The element is air. The ruler is Mercury. It's also corresponding to the third house, and the perspective here is personal. So in the beginning of the wheel, it's personal. It's like coming in, having a self, valuing the self, and learning to communicate. That's Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So that's where we are in the wheel right now. This is the first air sign of the zodiac. It invites us to awaken the mind, engage in meaningful dialogue. So let's do that today. Explore the power of curiosity and communication. This is the season of movement, connection, and inspired expression. We can see that superpowers of people that have a lot of Gemini in their charts is that they are curious, expressive, witty, adaptable, intelligent, playful, versatile, quick thinking, articulate, and social. And the pitfalls can be scattered, overthinking, inconsistent, superficial, restless, gossipy, distracted, and neurotic. So even just looking at this, you can see those basic things. We said it was air. All this feels airy and up here, right? And also we said it was masculine, which is also that it's positive and outward going. And all these qualities, good or bad, they are going out into the world. And you also see that the modality is mutable, it's changeable, curious, witty, adaptable. So it's moving a lot. So even just looking at this, it's nothing that you necessarily need to remember by heart when it comes to astrology. A lot of people do that. They remember everything by heart, but not with astrology, not with human design. You don't need to remember anything by heart, because in human design, you look at the circuitry and you understand, oh, this is a gate that's individual. Okay, so it has a pulse, it has a knowing, it cares about empowerment, right? So we don't have to guess. We can understand the big things and then we can actually get the details from there. So that's the same thing here. Air, outward going or masculine, and mutable. And all these qualities here come naturally when we know that about a sign. Gemini season is a time to follow the spark of inspiration, explore new perspectives, and share our voices. It also invites us to embrace duality, dance with paradox, and stay open to discovery through connection. And this connection is with others, with life, and with the ever-evolving truth within us. Here we have those archetypes again. And let's just look at where they are. So here we have a throat center gate, and this is what you're going to see. Throat center is about manifestation and metamorphosis. And you're going to see how many, actually all except one, even the 8, it's also here in the throat center. So they are all about expression. And when Roy speaks about the throat center, he also speaks about having things come to the throat. And sometimes we say that even the difference between generators and manifesting generators, they have the same aura, but it's different when you have a motor that is coming directly to the throat, like the MGs have, and the generators don't have. So in order for things to manifest, to come into form, we see also we are in the part of the wheel that is the quarter of duality. Things manifest through form. The purpose is to manifest things in form, right? So people that have this as their sun gate, they are going to care about tangible things. And maybe that is a bit more clear when we speak about an earth sign that is fixed, like Taurus where we were. But even here, through that expression, so much is created because we connect, because we are in that creativity together. And Gemini has its genius in that connection. So the tranquil. You can see that it's part of the fork. The only place in the human design body graph where we have a fork, where there is more than 2 gates that create a channel, is here. So we have this 20, we have the 10, we have the 57 and the 34 that create this 4 formation. And it's all about the individual empowerment in the now. It's where we have evolved because we weren't really open to outside influence. We were very in tuned in the moment, in our intuition, in our power, in our awareness, in our behavior. So we could behave in a way so that whatever came, we were able to survive. So that's what led to evolution, and also the spine that was an animal and was horizontal, and then the vertical spine. So that's what the 20 is part of. And the tranquil is part of being able to have that awareness and observe. So this is not an awareness gate, but it has to do with awareness. So that's interesting. That's something Rara who is speaking about as well. In the 64 doors, we say that the internal motivator for the tranquil is to trust in the divine order. So whatever is happening, whatever is moving, there is that empowerment in being aware, observing what is, not necessarily having to react to anything, but to trust in the divine order. And I like to look at the little hexagram here, and it looks like the Arc de Triomphe. It's like I'm thinking about Paris and that thing just standing there at the end of the Champs-Élysées. It's just standing there, and you've seen like kings and everybody walk up and down the Champs-Élysées, and it has that kind of tranquil thing to it. And then we have the 16. So here we're also in the throat, but we are not in the empowerment of the individual here. Here we are in the collective circuitry that is recognizing patterns. So the 16 is connecting to the 48. This is about mastery. This is about being both wide and deep. Whenever we need to be versatile, we can be versatile. Whenever we need to be deep, we are deep. It's connecting to the 5818 that can discern if a pattern doesn't work. It's also connected to the 31-7 to be able to speak out a better pattern for the collective, for the future. So this is about sharing. This is about connecting to the future and patterns that can work better for humanity. And what we say in the 64 door is that here we have a passion for experimentation, because in order to arrive to mastery, we need to identify with something, and then we need to do it so many times. But in order to know what we are identifying with, we need to actually test it. So if you have the 16 and you're like not doing anything, then it's probably time to find that curiosity, that Gemini energy of, okay, what do I want to connect to? And then try it. And then if it feels right, if it feels like you can identify with it, then there is no limit for what's possible. Then we have 35, the heroine, here in the very heart of Gemini. And here we are on the other side of the throat center. So we are still in collective circuitry, but instead of being logical patterns like we had on the other side, here we're going to have abstract. So this is connected to the 36, the storm. This is the channel of transistoriness. And it's not until we look back that we can make some sense of it, usually. The 35 needs to be in the adventure. It needs to have those experiences that fills the heart, because otherwise it can feel hunger and frustration and just need to have some kind of experience. So it's important here, that connection to also a healthy brain chemistry with serotonin and tryptophan in food, so that you have a brain chemistry that can actually have you feel fulfilled, so that you're not always looking for something else, something more outside of you. So here we also have that experiences that is yearning for. But we can see that the experiences in the 16 is more because there is a pattern and there's a building up to mastery. And here in the 35, yes, it can be chaotic with a lot of different experiences. And like I said, the abstract circuitry is not until we look back that we can make sense of it. And this is all for the collective. So the sharing here, the knowing that the neighbor did this or that, can actually help us to not do this or that, or to do this or that. So this is very much a sharing and an understanding in the collective of what works, what doesn't work. And it adds to that kind of akasha of the memories of everything that ever happened. And that is part of our evolution of consciousness. And then we have the 45, the goodwill. And here we are still in the throat gate, but now it's connecting in tribal circuitry to the 21. So we have the king or the queen here with the resources, and then we have the manager in the ego center, the 21. So that's the very organization and structure of the tribe. We need somebody who has the responsibility for the resources, and we need somebody who manages them. And then all the other gates in the tribal circuitry are of course also helping with the survival of the tribe, which is the thriving in the material plane, not only the surviving in the material plane. And the 45 is with the 21, this channel that is connecting for people that are ego manifestors. So ego manifestors, or they could be MGs as well and have this channel. We call it the money channel because it has all that power. And as we know from the gene keys, sometimes we can live it out in a low frequency, and then it's not necessarily that we will have a lot of money, but there is the capacity here to unlock that kind of genius. So for the 45, we have said that the motivator is the well-being of the community. So here, when it comes to the material plane, we can't survive in isolation. And when the tribe thrives, that's when everybody can thrive. So even the king needs to have that goodwill to care about the well-being of everybody in the tribe. Here we have the prophet. So we are still in the throat gate, and now we are in individual circuitry. So coming back from the 20, that was individual circuitry. We're on the other side. Here we don't have a fork. We have that simple connection to the 22. And this is the only way really that the individual can express their emotions. This is a social channel, and this is how those emotions can come up to the throat. So Here it has to do with being in the mood or not. So it's not always about sharing. That's why we call this in human design the gate of caution. So that's something also that Gemini can learn, because sometimes we can be a little bit tired with Gemini because it seems like it's just speaking for the sake of speaking. But how can we have a bit of caution and speak when we are actually cutting through with truth? So here it has to do with not being overcautious, but at the same time kind of choosing when and what we share, which is always a dilemma when it comes to the individual circuitry, because it has this timing aspect to it. When is the right time? When is that mutation going to be able to spark in others as well? And for the 12 motivator, truth is what matters. If it's just superficial stuff, it can be fun to connect, but it's not necessarily something that is going to create something long lasting. And now we are in the last one, which is on the cusp of Cancer. So here we actually now are leaving the throat center and the manifestation, the metamorphosis, the expression that lives in the throat. And we are coming into the G center, the center of self, the center of direction, the center of love. So knowing who you are, knowing where you're going, knowing what love is. And here we are back in the collective circuitry. So this is connecting to the 16 and the 48. So collective circuitry patterns. This is the aura. So people that have this gate, they are connected to the collective patterns. And because the wild woman or the wild man can be quite extreme, that's also where sometimes other people come into their cadency and they don't really realize until they are really in it. So this is a gate where it's important to be connected to nature, to cadence that is healthy, because otherwise it could go quite far. I was looking at this for myself. My progressed sun, the progressed sun is that from the year you're born, you move 1 degree every year your sun. So of course, if I was born in Taurus, 30 years later, I'm going to be somewhere in Gemini, and now it's some more years. So I'm going into Cancer in my progressed sun, which is going to be connected to my ascendant. That's also in Cancer. And I'm going to be in my Uranus opposition as well next year, which has the cross in gate 15 and the cross of the vessel of love. So it's going to be a lot of 15. So I don't know how wild I'm going to be, but I could be quite wild in a year. Here we actually say it is to care about the whole. So in human design, this is the love of humanity. But the only way, Rahu is very clear with that, the only way of loving humanity is to first love yourself. And that's where we're needing the 25, the innocence, the love of spirit. We need the love of the body, caring about the temple. We need the self-love and the behavior of the self in a way so that we feel like we are in our naturalness. And with all these 4 gates together, 25, 46, and the 10 and 15, that's when we also can feel the love of everything that's out there. And actually, when we read in the line companion, Rahu doesn't say that extreme is necessarily extreme. He says that this is very much about uniqueness. So your uniqueness might look extreme to somebody else. It doesn't mean that it is extreme. Actually, the first line of the hexagram is called modesty. Because it's just you do your own thing and you don't really care about others. And I think that goes together so much with 2027 and what we're going into. It's about being ourselves, being unique, coming back to all these G center gates. The G center gates are the locks in the global cycles. And every time, every 400 years, when we're changing the cross, there are new keys that are unlocking those same G center gates. So different ways of unlocking the love of self, unlocking our temple. And I was looking at that the other day. We have done a masterclass on it before, but I just wanted to make it even more clear for people now that before, for example, for the temple, that I'm always speaking about embodiment, before to unlock the 46 in our lives in humanity, it was the 40. So if you had some resolve, yeah, you can probably survive and be quite healthy. However, now that we're going into the cross of the sleeping phoenix, the way that you unlock the 46 is going to be the 59. So we're going to need transparency. We're going to need true intimacy. Those are the 2 things. And we're going to destroy it for ourselves if we are resorting to dishonesty. And that's just so important. Our body is going to fall apart if we can't find this higher frequency of transparency, of intimacy, of connecting in a way that's healthy. So those are the gates that we are going to be in Gemini season. And here today we have looked at some of the keys to unlock Gemini. And I just want to read this short introduction to the 20 to bring us back to the 20. So the tranquil and the deconditioning journey of this archetype. The tranquil is the embodiment of presence made visible, the sacred still point in the center of the storm. Rooted in immediacy, yet vast in depth, the tranquil speaks only when lives move through them, when presence becomes word and word becomes truth. They are not here to strategize or to posture, but to be, to witness, to speak from the now, and to reflect the perfection of the moment with utter calm. This is the one who listens to life before responding, whose self-assurance is born of alignment rather than ego, and whose silence often says more than speech ever could. So that brings us back to the Tranquil, who is the main character of today's movie.